Welcome, everybody, to the PPM Winter Circle podcast. I'm your host, Hunter, and today we got Mr. Rodney,
Hello, guys.
Mr. Randy,
Hello.
and Mr. Ricky.
Hello there.
And we got a special guest with us today. We got Jed from Excess Power and Batteries.
Yeah, how are you guys doing today? Glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me on. I think I was the backup call, but that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. I'll put a pinch hit for you guys anytime.
Well, we appreciate you coming in.
Maybe a lot of that, Jed.
That's all right. I already warned you. I can get
I've
going.
seen pinch hitters win games.
We're important people. We're important people.
Man, we appreciate you coming in on such short notice. But, you know, this was something we've been wanting to do. We wanted to get a vendor of ours on here and be able to talk with them about their background and even the products that they sell every day. So we're very excited to have you on here. So I guess we're going to get started. The first question I got to ask is, you know, how far back or when did you get into start racing yourself, or just like how'd you start?
Yeah, so I mean, it's probably the typical racer story. Like my family's been around it my whole life. My mom took me to my first race when I was about 10 days old. My uncle and my cousin both used to race. My uncle, James Kelso, and then my cousin, Jason McCall, raced and had family friends that raced, and I've been going ever since. As far as when I started racing, I think I started racing go-karts in 2007, 2008, and we did that for a little while. I think I've flipped a couple of times, so my head and my memory's not real good, but I believe we started racing late models when I was 18 or 19. Steve Ritchie called me, I think, in 2013 or 2014, the number 98 car that I drive, and got an opportunity to drive for Steve. But we raced go-karts for several years, and then again went to late models, I think 13 or 14, and then that's what I've been doing ever since.
Sweet. All right, that's going to be my next question is, did you just start out in a late model, like your first big car was a late model? But that's awesome, and you still drive for him, don't you? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I still drive for Steve, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my cousin Jimmy Kelso, which again, please don't hold that against me, Scooby as everybody calls him. But Jimmy, he gave me my first opportunity to get in a late model, and so like I said, I was still racing go karts, and it's one of those things. His race car was kept at my mom and dad's house, my uncle's garage, and everybody kind of lives on the little compound there. And he gave me an opportunity to get in a car, and we had a pretty decent little run our first time. And I went from straight to go karts and jumped right in a late model, and it was an experience for sure. Because unfortunately, that first run, Jimmy's a little bit larger than I am, so that first night out was a little bit of an adventure because. His seat's a little bit bigger than mine, so we had a lot of mud plugs in there to make it happen, but he gave me my first opportunity, and then Steve Ritchie actually saw that race and remembered it, and I guess I did a few good things in it that impressed him for me never being in a car, and then when the time come, who he had drive, my cousin Jason, oddly enough, McCall, had been driving for him, and the opportunity comes. Steve was looking for another driver, and he said he prayed about it and talked to some of my family members that he went to church with, and he ended up giving me a call to the point. I remember when I got the call, like I said, I believe it was 2013. It was the NDRL race. I think that's what it was, at Smoky Mountain. I was there for practice on a Thursday night, and I'll never forget. Steve called, and I didn't have his number or anything like that. He called me, and he said, "Hey, this is Steve Ritchie." And obviously I know Steve. Steve's been around for years, and I knew of Steve and pulled for Steve when as a kid. And he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a driver next year, and I was just going to call and see if you want to drive my car." And I asked him, I said, "Are you sure you have the right number? Like, are you sure this?" I said, "This is Jed Emert." He said, "Yeah, I got your number from your uncle." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to." And so we've been together ever since. He's been putting up with me for a long time, about 10 years.
Where was your first race at in that late model?
Yeah, so my first race was at Smoky Mountain. So, like I said, when I drove Jimmy Kelso's car, and my first race, I don't remember where we finished or anything like that. I probably should, but that was my first ever race, and then my first ever win was 2016. Again, a lot of hits. Flipping and go-karts ain't good for you. I think 2016 we won our first late model race with Steve at 411, and like I said, I've been doing it ever since.
Out of curiosity, the karting, what did it teach you?
Well, it's one of those things. I think I probably stayed in karting a little bit too long to make that transition. Yeah. Karting teaches you, in my opinion, I think if you look at a lot of great race car drivers currently around our area, and even in the higher ranks, they started in go-karts, but it teaches you to be so smooth, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where you've got the guy, in late models, and it's gotten closer in big car racing as far as the split between the field. In go-kart racing, from first to 25th, it's about 2 or 3 tenths. At the most, it's a half a second. I mean, it's really, really tight because everybody's so close. So you've got to be perfect. You've got to be smooth. And a lot of times, even today, to my detriment, the problem is when it's time to get up on the wheel and go, I'm a little bit too conservative or too straight, trying to be too smooth, and you just kind of got to hustle.
Yeah, because you keep it real straight.
Yeah, so I mean, in my brain, like I said, go-kart racing just teaches you to be so smooth, hitting your marks. So that's really good when the racetrack's black and slow.
Right.
But when it's hammered down, you got to go up there.
It
And,
teaches you to keep the wheel speed up.
yeah, I
and
mean,
roll the corner.
yeah, momentum.
Yeah.
Because again, obviously with go-karts, you're limited on horsepower unless you're running like limited modified or open modified, which is like the limited or super late model go-kart racing. With that stuff, you really just, again, you're trying to keep your roll speed up. You're trying to keep your momentum up. So it's really good for crate racing, especially. But again, just being smooth on the throttle and really not even using the brake in go-kart, but especially on the wheel, that's where it comes. It's super advantageous, right? Making that transition. But again, it's a struggle. It's still a struggle for me when it's time to go and it's knee deep in mud and it's time to get up on the
Even
wheel.
at the top, though, the national known super guys, the ones that are better are the ones that carry that speed.
Yeah, absolutely. I always think growing up in go-karts and then even making the transition to late models, I felt like I modeled in my brain, the guys that won all the time were Scott, Jimmy, Dale, guys that drove right in the middle center of the black, driving straight, being smooth. And again, that's where that go-kart transition, I mean, it's super helpful, So learned a lot in go-karts. Racecraft in go-karts is a little bit different. And you see a lot of go-kart guys move up and they're kind of a little bit more rough, a lot of times, at least early on. So I kind of got beat around a lot of times in go-karts because Mark was my favorite race car driver, and Mark was always going to take care of everybody. If I'd have been a Dale Earnhardt fan, as a kid, I might have been a better go-kart racer. So a lot of times I got beat up in go-karts. But those guys are a little bit, because again, like I said, everybody's so close, so it's move or be moved in go-karts.
Right.
So, but there are some, like I said, really good things that I learned in the go-kart world that allowed me to transition into big car stuff. And again, there's some bad habits you learn. Not necessarily bad habits, but there's stuff that doesn't apply to big car racing.
You ever run asphalt?
I've never run asphalt. I really would like the opportunity to. I've had a couple of buddies that have talked to me about it, and I think that probably would fit my driving style
Your
better.
go-kart, it would fit you totally. Yeah.
I think it would, and unfortunately, like I said, haven't had a good opportunity to go do that. I've had a couple conversations, but anytime I think our late model racing is expensive, I hear those asphalt guys talk, and that's a whole different realm of price. So, so I'd love a chance. If anybody out there's listening, I'd love a chance to at least give it a shot.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Well, Mr. Jed, how did you get started and involved with XS?
Yeah, so oddly enough, excess power. So, as racers, as we do, usually in the fall, we're all looking for a sponsorship, looking for a deal, looking for some help. And everybody. Now that I've been on this side, I know everybody's looking for a deal. But that I was one of those people, and still am every now and then. But yeah, so how I got with the XS was we were just looking, again, driving for Steve Ritchie, and Steve is, he's footing everything on his own, don't have no major sponsors, and really until I got there didn't have really anybody, not that, as far as to, and it's just little stuff, right? You're just looking for, hey, you can give me $20 off a battery, $20 off this, that adds up, and most racers understand that, most everybody understands that. So oddly enough, I reached out to XS about sponsorship and had a sponsorship proposal and sent all that in. And in the process of sending that in, I realized, the website looked like it was a West Coast company, right? So this looks like they've got Baja trucks and race cars and all this stuff. But the way it's presented, it's a really cool-looking company, cool-looking logo. And in my brain, I thought, well, this is a West Coast company. And it turns out they're based in Knoxville, Tennessee. So in the process of reaching out, I applied for a job. And the sales manager at the time, Brady Basner, who worked there for several years before I got there and even after I got there, Brady was also the marketing guy. And, we got to know each other through the marketing deal. He worked with me on some sponsorship stuff and very grateful for that. And and it took probably a year of us working together on sponsorship stuff. Even after I applied, they just didn't have a good opening for a sales position. And then the opportunity again came where they had a sales position open up, and I had applied, and Brady gave me a call. And it's one of those things where we had built a relationship through the sponsorship stuff. When Brady called, he didn't even need my resume, right? So we went in for an interview, but essentially it was just for aesthetics. I'd already got the job, and because again, how we'd worked with me trying to promote their product and get people to go purchase Excess Power products. So again, I think I started Excess Power 2017, 2018. And then I have been there ever since. I worked as just a sales guy, and on the performance side mostly. I do some work with some car audio customers, some marine customers, some RV customers. So we don't just have racing batteries. We've got batteries for pretty much anything you can think of. We've got a battery for it. But specifically, I deal mostly with the racing stuff. Obviously, that's my forte and my expertise in that. And then this past fall, Brady let it be known that he was going to step back and go start his own company, his own hot rod shop. That was a dream of his. So Brady was the sales manager and the marketing manager, and then the opportunity came for me to be step up and be the sales manager. So I'm the current performance sales manager at Excess Power, and so pretty much any account that we've got that's a racing account, I deal with it for the most part. Anytime there's a super technical question about racing stuff, it usually comes to me and from the customer service department, so I pretty much handle all that. Now, that's not to say I know everything, but usually from bad experiences of my own, as far as messing things up on my own, I can tell you what not to do and get you pointed in the right direction.
So with your background of racing and you still involved in racing and driving and everything, how does all of that help you with your job in selling these batteries to the racers that you, compete against and even across the nation?
Yeah, it's one of those situations. It's a whole lot easier to sell something that you believe in and that you used before you started working there, right?
Exactly.
So I was an Excess Power customer before I got there. It's obviously still an Excess Power customer now. So because of my own personal experiences, it makes it easy to sell a product you use, right? So, obviously you guys use your own product and have been dealing with it for years, so it's super easy to sell. So when you truly believe in something before you even start working there, it's super easy to make that transition. Mm-hmm. And honestly, when somebody calls in for a customer service issue or something like that, it makes them feel better that I say, "Hey, man, I'm a racer too." When somebody calls in and understands that you understand what they're dealing with, or you understand their situation, truly understand, that gives them a peace of mind. Like, okay, this guy knows exactly what I'm working with, and that's not to say I've drove a street stock, but I know the general realm of what everybody's dealing with. So that helps a tremendous amount. And again, like I said, just already being a believer in the product and how well it worked for me, it was super easy. It's super easy to sell something that you believe in, and again, that you've already been using for years.
Exactly, absolutely. So, along with the batteries and all of that, y'all have sold, since I've worked at PPM, the D1600 and the S1600 are two of the best batteries, since I've worked here. And the S1600 is just astronomically one of the ones that everybody goes to.
Sure.
It's the lighter battery of the two.
Correct.
But from what I understand, you do have a new battery, correct?
Yeah, so we've got a couple different things. As you touched on, the S1600 and the D1600 are our bread and butter 16-volt stuff. And we've also got the XP1000 as well. It's similar to the D1600. It's the exact same weight, but it's a little bit cheaper option with a little bit less cranking power, about 100 cranking amps less. So, again, we've got 12-volt stuff, 14-volt stuff, and 16-volt stuff. But specifically for the racing guys, a lot of people tend to go toward the 16-volt. Which again is our S1600, D1600, and XP1000. The 16-volt, there's the myth and the rumor that I wish I could prove, but it's just not true that 16-volt makes more power. And it's not that it makes more power. Again, if I could prove that, boy, we'd sell a heck of a lot more. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, that when you step up in voltage from 12-volt to 14-volt, and then even from 12-volt to 16-volt, if you've never made that transition to 16-volt, you can hear the difference. Like when you're cranking over your car, that extra voltage allows that starter to spin over a tremendous amount easier and a whole lot faster. Yeah. Everything, you build oil pressure faster if you got a dry sump motor, and again, everything just starts a lot easier, right? So, as you mentioned, we've got the S1600, which weighs 31 pounds, right at 520 cranking amps. It's a good solid battery for a crate guy. I've got super guys that run as well, but crate guys, steel block guys. Again, 31 pounds of solid battery. Our D1600 is right at 775 cranking amps. So, it's quite a bit more cranking amps, 250 more cranking amps, but it also weighs 50 pounds. So, you're adding 20 pounds, but you're getting more cranking power, more reserve capacity. It's a good opportunity where, guys all the time will call me and say, hey, I think I want to go lithium. And I want to go the lithium route. I'm like, why do you want to do that? Well, I think I just need to save weight. And then they end up hanging a 40-pound chunk of lead right beside the battery.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You know what I mean? There's the myth that going to lithium is going to, again, make more power. And it's not necessarily that it does that. It's just that, again, that it's more efficient because it rests at a higher voltage, a little bit higher voltage. But as you mentioned, we've got a couple different lithiums. Again, we've got a tremendous amount of options, which you can go to 4xspower.com and see all the options that we have. Obviously, PPM's got 99% of the stuff available on their website, but on your guys' website. But with the lithium titanate, it's going to be a direct replacement for the D1600. So it weighs about 11.5 pounds, has the same cranking power as that heavy-duty D1600. So that's really awesome, right? So instead of having to worry about if you want to relocate, move lead, put weight where you want to put it, you can save 40 pounds right from jump go, right? The awesome thing about the Titanate, and the actual official part number is RSV, which just stands for reserve. RSV S7. The S7 is just how many cells are in the battery. RSV S7 1600. And again, that 1600 is just the case you see here on the table with that Group 34 size. So the RSV S7 1600 is a true direct replacement for our AGM stuff. So the really cool thing about it is that even though it is lithium, you're able to replace it with an AGM, and you can actually charge it with an AGM charger. Now, this is the only lithium that you can do that with. Technically, you can charge a lithium phosphate battery with an AGM charger, but the reason you don't want to do that is because, like this red charger here, was our 1004 charger. This is our 16-volt, 20-amp charger. Is just designed to work with AGM. Now, the difference between an AGM charger and a lithium charger is an AGM charger, when it goes to fully charged, it goes to what we call a float mode, which is essentially like a low amperage trickle charge, okay? With a lithium charger, when it gets to fully charged, it goes to float, but it's a different kind of float. It shuts itself off, right? So with a lithium phosphate battery, whether it's our stuff, Lithium Pros, Go Lithium, you want that charger to shut off. Okay, with the lithium phosphate stuff, you want the charger shut off. That way you don't have any kind of fire or any kind of heat build up in the battery. With our Titanate model, it works with an AGM charger because it can handle a little bit of an overcharge. It can handle too deep of a discharge. So you can use that AGM charger with it. It can withstand that extra low amperage mode. Now, you certainly don't want to leave any battery on for an extended amount of time. But typically with our AGM stuff, we recommend when that float light comes on your charger, leave it on there about an hour just to keep, if you're at the shop, put it on there for about an hour. After it's been on there for about an hour, you can take it off the float mode. And again, with that Titanate, like they said, the RSV S7 1600, with it, you can leave it on there for about 20, 30 minutes, and it's not going to hurt anything on that float mode. So that's why, again, like I said, it's a true direct replacement, so you can use your same charger to our AGM stuff.
And what's the price difference in that kind of stuff between the D1600 and the S1600 versus the RSV?
Sure. Yeah. So with the AGM stuff, the S1600 and the D1600 retail is going to be right at $400, so $399.99. And you should see MAP pricing. So quite frankly, if you see anybody that's way below, like obviously you guys have it priced correctly, we have MAP pricing. So if you see anybody below that price, you probably shouldn't be getting it from there. There's a reason they've got it underpriced, right? So it's either old stock or it's discounted stock, or a lot of times we don't even know where it necessarily came from. So we have MAP pricing on that. It's $399.99. Now the lithium is a pretty big jump, right? So it retails it right at $1,999.99. But again, you're going to be looking at saving weight. In a perfect scenario, right? So it is a man-made part. The AGMs are a man-made part. The lithium's a man-made part. But if everything goes according to plan, charge cycle-wise and life cycle-wise, the lithium should last about 2 to 3 years longer than the AGM stuff. So let's say if you're hard on stuff, you're only going to get 1 year out of an S1600. You should get 3 years out of a Titanate, the lithium. If you're getting 3 years out of your D1600, you should get 5 years out of your lithium. Now, again, man-made part, things can happen, but on average, that's what we see. I can't tell you how many times I've got customers that will call in and they'll have a D or S1600, and they'll have made it last 6 years, right? So, and then I've got the same style customer, late model racer, for example, who can't make a battery last a year. You know what I'm saying? So the battery's the same. It's just the care they give to the product is different. So again, on average, like I said, with our AGM stuff, you're going to see about 3 years, and then the lithium stuff you should see about 2 years. And again, that price difference being between 400 and 1,000 is the difference.
Yeah.
How do the batteries hold up as far as voltage during a race, like on the dirt late model where we don't have the alternators?
Yeah,
Do they hold up pretty good?
Yeah,
or?
so they do. So that's the thing. So like the S1600, with it being the AGM, it does have less reserve capacity. So if you're running a helmet blower or any kind of electronics beyond just your standard ignition gauges, that's where you probably want to lean. If you're running something more than that, right? So that's where you probably want to lean more towards something that's got higher reserve capacity, which would be the D1600 or the Titan 8. Again, I've got customers that have run the S1600. They'll run 100 laps, no problem at all. But then I've got get customer that might have a helmet blower that's trying to run an S1600 100 laps, and it's just going to be hard on it to make it 100 laps. With the D1600, you shouldn't have to worry about that, right? So as long as your charger's charging properly, you're keeping it charged up, 100 laps should be no problem. Quite frankly, you should be able to test all day on it and not have any issues. The Titan 8, again, is going to be very similar power-wise to the D1600. So if you're having good success with an AGM D1600, moving to that Titan 8, you should see just the same success, right? And essentially, you're just saving 40 pounds. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and along with these batteries and stuff, y'all offer kits with the batteries, the chargers. You've got wiring harnesses, or battery cable kits.
Mm-hmm.
I call them harnesses.
Yeah.
But you got battery cable kits and all that kind of stuff. Is it just with the batteries and the chargers, do you sell more individually batteries, or do you sell more of the kits?
It varies. Honestly, it depends on the time of year. It never fails come springtime. I sell a ton of batteries because guys have left a switch on or over the winter. And unfortunately, the batteries, certainly, obviously, a battery guy, I think the battery is the most important thing in the car, right? Yeah. But in reality, most people don't view it that way, right? So in the wintertime, everybody's worried about replacing tires, replacing motors, replacing shocks, springs, stuff like that. And a lot of times the battery gets it's the redheaded stepchild, right? It doesn't get taken care of over the winter. So springtime, I usually see a tremendous amount of uptick in batteries. Middle of the summer, usually you'd be amazed how many chargers I get back that have been pulled behind the car, run over, stuff like that. where racers just call in and they're like, I think I hurt my roll my charger. And then when I get it back, it looks like it's been thrown down the interstate and flipped upside down. And the wiring kits, a lot of times I see a lot of that when, again, same deal, wintertime, springtime, customers are building new cars. I can't tell you enough how a lot of times racers need to check on make sure they're keeping a good check on their wiring. If they're, replacing batteries very often, if they're going through batteries super quick, typically it's one or two things. You got a bad kill switch, bad master disconnect, or you've got they replace the battery and then it still doesn't crank very well. It's still weak cranking. There's usually a little spot, and all it takes, I can't express this enough to racers, all it takes is a little burnt spot or a little break in the wire on the ground side or the hot side for your car just to not crank correctly or it to pull the battery dead. So I always try to keep a check on that. Something I try to do, and I'm certainly not perfect at it. Usually I'm the one that tries to make a battery last 5 or 6 years, or I try to make wiring last 5 or 6 years. If you get the opportunity to replace that, I'm not trying to sell you on something, but I do recommend replacing that stuff because a lot of times, and you guys know this obviously, but a lot of times when you're having an issue like that, it's something you literally can't even see, right? It's just a minuscule thing. A prime example, I had a customer, and I won't throw him under the bus, Rusty Ballinger. Rusty had been having some battery issues, or again, what we thought was battery issues, and had just cranking. He's always having to get pushed off. I'm like, man, it's not a battery issue. The battery, he would send the battery back, we get it checked out. And I'm like, man, it's not a battery issue. You got a wiring issue. And it turned out he had one little burnt spot on the wire, replaced it, and immediately fixed his problem. So sorry I picked on you, Rusty, but he's just one of them. But
good example,
it
right?
is a great example, right? So I'll get a text message if he watches. I'm sure. But again, like I said, it's just important that racers do that. But typically with the wiring kits, it's usually, unfortunately, only when customers build a new car. But I can't recommend it enough to keep a check on that stuff, right? You're replacing everything else in your car. Why wouldn't you replace your wiring? Especially typically it's a pretty straight run. I know it can be a pain a little bit, but it's certainly well worth it to keep all that stuff maintenance and upgrade that stuff when you get the chance.
Absolutely.
What would you say hurts or kills a battery the most?
The most kill switches left on or bad kill switches, right? So customers will say, man, your battery's just not holding the charge. Well, we'll get it in and we'll run all. We've got a lot of diagnostic systems in our warehouse that we run tests on. Sometimes it's just a simple load test that we put on it, but we've got a couple other machines that we run that put a more advanced test on it, and we'll get it in and it won't be a battery issue.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "No, I'm telling you, it's not holding the charge." So I'll send them another one, or we'll take care of them and work with them on it. And a lot of times the kill switch has gone bad, and that kill switch, like, is not designed to do specifically with dirt racers, right? That kill switch is not designed to have a pressure washer blown in the side of it.
Right.
But that's what every one of us does, right?
Yeah.
It's wash day. We take it, and that's all it is just this little rubber, gasket or silicone seal, and with a pressure washer and or a hotsy especially, it gets blown out.
Yeah.
So that makes a poor connection. And even when you'll have the switch turned off, your gauges might not come on. It might not crank the car, but it's just allowing just enough of a draw to come through where it kills the battery. The other thing too, it just quite frankly just not charging it enough. Customers will try to go a long time between charges. That's certainly hard on it as well. And again, it varies. A lot of times customers, when things like that happen, it's not something they're maliciously doing. It's just a lot of times it's something that they you got to trust me when I say check these 4 or 5 things right when you call in. My favorite thing, and I'm guilty of it, I know, on other aspects and other parts, but when a racer calls me and tells me, I've been racing for 30 years, I don't believe that's the problem. Okay, well, you called me, right? So, and again, that's not to say we always have the answer, but typically that's what I see when batteries are dying quickly or quicker than what we think. It's usually, again, it's something we can't see, like a kill switch issue or something like that.
Yeah, it's something simple as having a customer that car not handling, and have you checked your ball joints? Oh, my ball joints are good, and you don't take but just a little bent ball joint to throw the car completely out.
Yeah, certainly, and I'm guilty. See, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I ain't hitting nothing. I haven't hit a thing. I'm that guy. So I am the guy when it's not coming.
I had a guy one time that he got hit on the right side, and he said, "Well, that's fine," and then he looked to his left side, and it was bent.
Yeah.
How'd that happen? I said, "Well, you did hit something."
Right. So us racers, we're hard-headed, and a lot of times that makes it tough. And honestly, that's why we've got a really good customer service team. I've got some new guys, some young guys that are learning as well. But we got a really good customer service team at Access Power. So anybody that listens or watches, certainly, we're there to help, right? So we try to help everybody we can. At the end of the day, we're just racers and car enthusiasts for the most part at the office, and we don't want you to have no problems, right? And you guys don't want your customer to have no problems. So, when we offer advice or ask questions, we're certainly not accusing. It's just we want to get to the bottom of your problem. I don't want you to have problems again, right? So we try to do our best with that. And another thing too, this is kind of a side note, but anytime especially on these red chargers or the gray chargers, 16 volt or 12 volt. If you guys ever tear one up or something like that, we can fix them. You'd be amazed how many people call me to order a new charger or to ask me where to get a charger, and I'll say, "What happened with your other one?" "Well, I just threw it away." Well, don't do that. We can fix it for the most part, unless, like I said, I have seen some stuff it's been treated pretty badly, on purpose or on accident. It's been treated pretty badly, but.
All right, guys, I think we're going to kick it over to the product spotlight here. The product spotlight of today is going to be your Excess Power batteries and chargers. Excess Power brings a lot of good quality parts to the table when it comes to all your electronic needs. So make sure to check out the Excess Power batteries and chargers and wiring kits, and we even got kits for batteries with chargers in them. So check them out at ppmracingproducts.com or give us a call at 865-354-9669. Now, Mr. Jed, we appreciate you coming on on such short notice.
Yeah, no, I'm just giving you crap. You're more than welcome.
No, we appreciate it very much, and allowing us to have you on here to give our customers and even the viewers a good aspect of your products. We really appreciate it. Excess has been one of the leading batteries and chargers companies in the game since I've worked here. So I'm very happy that I get to sell a great product and get to work with a great team. So I think that's where we're going to kick it off here. Actually wind it down. So anyways, guys, we appreciate y'all watching. Thank you again, Mr. Jed from Excess Power Batteries, for coming on here with us. If y'all haven't already, check out all of our products at ppmracingproducts.com. Or if you know what you want to order, give us a call at 865-354-9669. And if you're interested, with any of the excess power stuff, even stuff we may not offer for any of the other applications that they offer. Sorry. Any of the other applications that they offer, check out excesspower.com or call up there and talk to Jed, and they'll get you taken care of. But as always, guys, we appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to watch the upcoming podcast, and we will see you in the next one.
Hey, subscribe, like.
Hit that button.
Come on, get up on the wheel. Go in there. You just smell poop or see Jesus. Let's get it done.